The crypto industry in 2022 was marred by news of some very large hacks. Chiin Gandia of Emfarsis helps us understand what has happened and what steps can be taken to prevent them. Joining Chiin is Lorne Lantz of Breadcrumbs app, Jaarno Laatikainen of Chainalysis, and John Cattral of the ASEAN WEB3 Lead Solutions Architect.
Hey guys.
All right.
Sit down. Good morning, everyone. All right. I hope you guys are comfortable in your seats and you guys have drank your coffee if you drink coffee. I hope the caffeine is already kicking in as well, because this panel is a very interesting one, especially with the recent events. We're going to talk about crypto security. So I'd like to introduce myself formally. I'm Chiin Gandia from Emfarsis. We're an investment and advisory firm. I'll introduce our speakers as well. So we have Lorne Lantz from Breadcrumbs. We also we also have Jaarno Laatikainen from Chainalysis, and then we also have John Cattral from Amazon Web Services.
Good morning, everyone.
All right. So we only have a 20-minute panel, and I really want to get their thoughts when it comes to crypto security. So this year has been very challenging in the crypto space. There's a lot of hacks and security exploits that happened. And it kind of became a normal thing to see on crypto Twitter or on media publications that there's million-dollar hacks happening. Like, not really every day, but like every week or like during the course of the year. So what do you make out of that? Like, what is the challenge here? What do you see happening in the industry as it grows? So perhaps we can start with Jaarno.
Yeah, sure. We are seeing lots of innovations in the space, and with innovation, usually companies are getting a little bit ahead of themselves, sometimes not caring too much about security if their other goals are met. So that's one thing. Focusing more on internal processes like wallet structures, making it safe also internally, all the auditing processes internally, those things needs to be thought also. So usually the companies goes tech first, but the security should be right there, not just technical security, but also financial security, internally and externally.
Right. I'd love to hear from Lorne as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is all part of the innovation process. You know, the exact same thing happens with the internet 20 years ago, with all the credit cards, you know, being stolen, and it's just the nature of innovation. And to be honest, like, the biggest vulnerability in crypto right now with all these hacks and scams is actually people. You know, people are the biggest weakness. And so people adopting how to use the technology, how to protect themselves, there's a learning curve there, and that's the biggest vulnerability right now.
All right, I'd love to hear from John.
Yeah, so I think I can echo what's already been said. I work with a lot of startups, especially around this region, and obviously, you know, there's a lot of drive to innovate quickly. Obviously, security is not always the key focus, but obviously, you know, as we sort of mature and technology companies start to mature, the whole industry is maturing. We're starting to see, you know, better processes in place. We're starting to see a bit more regulation. So, yeah, it's evolving, and it's starting to evolve quite quickly also.
All right. I'd like to address like the elephant in the room, which is the recent happenings with FTX. I'd love to hear from Lorne and also from Jaarno about this. So there was a alleged hack that happened as well, and they filed for bankruptcy, and also there was like a backdoor thing that happened that allowed them to transfer funds. What are your thoughts about this? Like, what kind of processes and systems should founders focus on or builders should focus on when it comes to security?
I think the initial reports at the moment shows that this is more of a financial fraud kind of thing, not something that has to do with the blockchain as technology or so. I would still underline the importance of internal processes, auditing, bankruptcy protection, all those normal things to traditional finance that makes it secure. So I think this industry could learn something from there also, making it safe for the users. So making sure if something happens, if it's hack or if it's some kind of other malicious activity coming from internal side or externally, that there should be processes how to mitigate the damages. I think that's the most important lesson what we can learn at the moment.
Right, internal processes. Lauren?
Yeah, FTX is really an example of financial fraud, just like Enron, just like Bernie Madoff, just like Elizabeth Holmes from Theranos. It's the exact same mechanisms, and it's all because FTX lied about what they were doing with customer funds. That's the fundamental piece here. And the other part is, it's because the systems designed to protect us gave them too much leniency. You know, because like FTX is on F1 cars, FTX is on the Miami Arena, Tom Brady's promoting them, and you know, the CEO's on the cover of Forbes. Like too much leniency there. You know, by the way, Elizabeth Holmes was also on the cover of Forbes. So I actually think this is great for Web3. This validates why we need Web3, because with Web3, all the transactions are transparent, right? Like blockchains don't lie. Smart contracts can't lie. So, you know, it's not like Uniswap is going to be misappropriating customer funds. So I think that's one of the outcomes of this. As an industry as a whole, like, yeah, it sets us back. It puts a bad reputation on us. But I don't see it's because of crypto. It's because of one bad actor.
All right. And I want to move on to like discussing the common issue or the common topic in crypto or blockchain, centralized or decentralized projects. There's a lot of hacks that happens in security exploits. Can you share your thoughts with like your experiences with like centralized platforms and decentralized platforms when it comes to like security and protection? Maybe we can start with John.
Yes. So if we're talking about CeFi versus DeFi, you know, obviously CeFi, the pros and cons, you know, apply to both. So with the issue with CeFi, and also the best thing about CeFi is that you, the best thing about DeFi and the worst thing about DeFi is you actually hold your private keys. So it's great because you have complete ownership there. But the issue is obviously there's nobody to call if it goes wrong. So, you know, it's maybe for early adopters, and people that have maybe more advanced knowledge, you know, the right way to go. We're also seeing, you know, right now there's no real on-ramp into crypto from fiat with DeFi, at least, and that's maybe something that will come in the future. But yeah, on the specifics of, you know, hacks on CeFi, obviously. As we've seen, not all of these are, you know, related to the technology, but maybe more related to the people and process. I'll pass that on.
Yeah, thank you. I think the difference between CeFi and DeFi, of course, is throughout the custodial services. So when you're using custodial services, centralized exchanges, you need to trust to them. But then if you're using DeFi, that trust you need to be filling. You need to be sure that whatever you do, you are secure of what you do. So then the main thing is to understand the technology. So with CeFi, it's more like user can, there are players in the industry that they can still rely on this. But the main thing is that they need to give the trust away. And then the DeFi, they need to know enough to be able to have that trust element out from the third parties. I think that's the main difference here. User needs to be more acknowledged on all the information on space than like basic user using centralized exchanges.
Right. Lauren?
Yeah, I mean, most of the points are covered here, but an additional point is really most people still use CeFi because it's convenience. You know, and you can connect your fiat, you can connect your US dollars to CeFi. You can't really connect your bank account to Uniswap, to like something decentralized. And it's also just much more convenient, easier to use. You need a certain level of technical expertise to use DeFi, decentralized finance. So in terms of security, yeah, it's on point there.
All right. I'd love to ask about like when you deal with projects, like for example with Jaarno, you've seen a bunch of projects already with Chainalysis and investigated a lot of like hacks and like exploits. What are the common like red flags or problems that these protocols or these projects encounter that you can share to the audience?
I think the main thing is that quite many of them has already concentrated on the technical aspects of how can we get hacked. They understand the mechanism of how they can get hacked, but in many cases, like where we are involved, we've also seen that when that hack actually happens, they have no idea what to do. So there's no planning after the actual hack happens. So I think the first thing would be to maybe tell to yourself, it's not what if, it's when. So if you then plan accordingly, knowing that at some point you might get hacked, then when the actual event goes, then you have something to rely on. You have some kind of plan, first steps or responses to do. First of all, to mitigate the damages, save your customer funds, and try to get back operational as fast as possible. I think that's the main thing.
Right, so focusing on the internal processes, like what will we do in case we get hacked?
Absolutely, like understanding that no matter how strong we are technically, someone might still hack us. And when that happens, is our ecosystem, internal ecosystem for financial side and technical side compartment in a way that if something is exploited, it won't spread to the whole platform.
Right, thanks so much for that. Maybe Lauren can also like share?
As you mentioned, like technology is the easy part, the people is the hardest part. And it's not just externally like hackers trying to break into your system, it's internally as well. You need like proper governance to do multi-signature wallets. You need to do audits, like external audits to come and make sure like your processes are set up. That really is the biggest part of like so many hacks we've seen in the past where it's an insider, an employee who's stolen the money. It's there's just so many different aspects and so many people. And honestly, the best protection is just trying to work with people who are honest. Like, you know, stay away from like red flags and putting those kind of people within your ecosystem. That's like the biggest part of the protection is really around the people.
All right, so would you say that it's really like educating the founders, educating the community as well that plays a huge part when it comes to crypto security, making sure that they know how to protect themselves? Would you guys agree to that one? Maybe you can share as well, John?
Yeah, sure. I think, you know, just to add to what's already been mentioned, you know, obviously, when you're building out systems, thinking about like limit of blast, you know, if something is compromised, you know, you can enable anomaly detection, try to automate your security. So if you're deploying smart contracts, and as part of that pipeline, you know, have automated analysis in there, and obviously bring in external people. Like a lot of the times you have startups that try to do everything themselves, but quite often you just don't have the expertise internally. So, you know, engage with external partners who are experts. And that would be my advice, especially when it comes to security.
All right. I wanted to ask as well, like, what is the state of crypto security, like tooling and softwares? Like, you've been here in this space for so long. How do you see it like progressing more in the future? Maybe we can start with
concerning softwares?
Yeah, tooling and softwares when it comes to crypto security.
I think at the moment the software itself is like said before, the blockchain technology itself and all the technicalities there. That's on major parts. It's pretty okay. It's safe, again, if you know how to use it. 90%, like I can't give like example, like specific numbers, but majority of the cases that we are seeing, like Lorne said, it has to do with some kind of human error when using these kind of softwares. So of course, software security is super important, but in order for that to work for the fullest capacity, you also need to educate the users. And I think, again, that's the next step we should take, I think.
All right, Lorne?
The biggest vulnerability I see in software security is actually in the developer mindset. Generally, developers right now think with the move fast and break things, mindset from Web 2.0, where it's like you can just go and build, and if something's broken, you can always just change it right away. Well, guess what? You can't do that with a smart contract. It's immutable. Once it's out there, once there's money in there, you can't change it. And so really changing that developer mindset of, no, like let's put a lot of time and effort into auditing these smart contracts before we start putting money in it. That's a big issue I see in the industry right now, and it's really around the developer mindset.
All right. I think this can be our last question, like especially to our audience who are like using NFTs, using DeFi, using like different blockchain and crypto like projects. What is your advice for like the consumer side? Like how do they protect themselves when it comes to like crypto security? Perhaps we can start with Lorne, or who wants to go there?
Sure. As a consumer, the best way you can protect yourself is education. If you're using something decentralized, check to make sure their smart contracts have been audited. For anything centralized, check to make sure that they've been regulated. They have licenses. They're in jurisdictions that are legitimate, like the U.S. as opposed to the Cayman Islands. Or these are some of the basics of it, but it really comes down to educating yourself to protect yourself.
And also understanding that, of course, we have been like hearing a lot of things that crypto space, Web3, it's not just about investing, but at this point there is lots of like financial value going in whatever you're doing. So in that sense, also recognizing how much you can lose, like taking account your own risks when you're using these protocols. So then you are also protecting yourself, not just relying on some protocol, making sure that you are protected. You need to be protecting yourself also by controlling the risk you put to specific platform. You never put all the eggs in the same basket, so the same thing happens here. Like acknowledge your risk and act accordingly. I think that's the main thing here.
John?
Yeah, I think I'd just echo that obviously, most of these centralized exchanges don't have the same financial guarantees as a typical bank. So obviously, just to keep that in mind if you're keeping, large amounts of funds in there, and then to consider other options. Obviously, there are plenty of hardware wallets if you're going to keep them, store funds for a long time. You may consider, as again, spreading out across multiple exchanges. So.
All right. So you guys have spoken a lot about like internal processes, like focusing on the founders and the team as well, because crypto security, the tooling is always evolving. And I think the focus really is like educating the consumers as well with like the risks that they are taking and how to properly assess projects that they're being involved with as well. I think that ends our panel for this morning. I hope the audience has gathered really good insights when it comes to like protecting themselves and like looking at projects, really like making sure that they know what they're doing before they get into something. But yeah, I'd like to thank you guys for this panel. I think that's it. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chiin, Lorne, Jaarno, and John.